Hi, it's Ray from Pro Shaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts. We're working on this Porsche 550 dash again. We did this the last installment. We got it tacked together, and a lot of finessing has to happen still on this. But I think what I want to do is get these other main components up to at least this state. So first thing we'll do is this corner here, and we got to peel this off. And then we'll take a look at this flexible shape pattern after we peel it off. So I'm going to peel this off, and we can show a little bit of peeling off process. When you peel the flexible shape pattern off, you got to make sure it doesn't separate, and you don't want to stress it too much. It really won't stretch or shrink because the fiberglass fibers in that top layer really kind of weld it all together and make it really strong. But you can separate the tape sometimes, so you have to push it back down and pick the bottom layer of tape up. Make sure you get it all. So we'll slowly peel this away, and then after we get it peeled off, we'll take plaster of Paris. This has the low stick on it on this side. We'll take the plaster of Paris, dust it, and then we have the flexible shape pattern to work with. We want to be very careful when we're taking this off that we don't touch itself, because two low sticks becomes one really difficult stick. Now you see that? See how it's separating right there? Because the low stick is stuck really good. So I'm going to ignore that, and I'm going to start over here, and I'll pull it off from this corner, or maybe this corner here. There we go. So you can see it's a really odd shape, and Marcus, like I said, included a lot of the flanges on here. This is a double return here. This is a flange and then another return here, and then it's got a return flange on the bottom which stiffens it up. I might cut those off with a scissor, because all of these flanges I might cut off with a scissor. I might leave this one because they upset the way the pattern is going here. The next step would be we'll dust it with the plaster of Paris. Then we'll punch out all the holes, and we'll find the gauges for it. And then we're going to cut the blank out of aluminum. We'll probably trim these edges off, these flanges. We're just going to upset the flow of the flexible shape pattern. So after we cut those off, dust it, punch the holes, we'll cut the blank, and we'll be back in a few minutes. All right, we took the flexible shape pattern, we trimmed off all the flanges that we can just add those on after, and we dusted it, and I punched all the holes out. Let's do a little analysis with just a little piece of aluminum sheet metal here, and I just want to see how the flows are going on this very complex surface. So if we put it here, you can see there's a hollow under it like this, so the flow is going this way. And we put it that way, we can see there's a hollow going that way too. So that is what I'd call an inverted standard compound curve. So if we put the straight edge on the other side, see, we got a rock going this way and we got a rock going this way. So that's not a reverse right there. So let's see if we can, I'll magic marker it, where the reverses and where the standards are. This is all standard, but it's inverted right in here. That's all standard. And then right here, you see that the curve's going this way, but then we have this radius, which is a tapered radius, very similar to this one, but then it goes into a much larger radius over here. So this is rocking this way, and this is the opposite. So this is a reverse curve all along the edge here. And we put the pattern, you can see there's a lot of extra material on this edge. See that? So that has to be all stretched out in order to be able to conform to that shape. And then over here, where we have the remnant of this radius coming down here, if we put the gauge going like this, there's a little gap in here, and then we put it like this, and it's rolling here. So there's a little reverse right on this edge too, so that edge will have to be stretched out too. This is just a standard tip here. That's a secondary operation. That's not too difficult. So we'll attack this by focusing on this area here. We might set the arrangement, which is this curve here, but then we also have to accommodate this curve or this radius where it flows around here, and that means we'll have to stretch. And when you have a reverse curve, that means either stretching on the edge or shrinking in the where the valley would be. The valley's on this side. On this side it's positive, on this side it's negative. But on this one it's not severe, and we should be able to stretch that out with the wheel pretty easy. And this will be done with the wheel. So a lot of this is going to be done with the wheel. For first we have to get a piece of 050 aluminum. We have to accommodate for our flanges, so we leave a little extra material for the flanges, plus we leave a little cheat material, because oftentimes when you're working on a panel, if you stretch an edge or something, it'll move it like this, and then you'll find out you're short over here. So it's good to have some extra material. You can cut your panel down 2 or 3 times sometimes in the process of shaping the panel. So we'll get the piece of 050 and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I have the panel all marked out. Magic marker, then I put the margin extra that we need for the tips, and then we got a little extra in there. And generally when you run a magic marker, the line can be a little less than perfect. So what I like to do is idealize the cut line with the blue 1/8 inch tape, and that'll give me nice lines. One of the sometimes the students, I'll tell them to go cut a blank, and when they do, they kind of wander all like this. And this is very dangerous when you're working with the panel. It makes it a really sharp, irregular edge there. It's better to have a nice clean line, and the blue tape provides you with a really nice clean line that you can easily chop out with the shear. And there we have it. There's our blank. We'll sand up the edges, and then we'll start shaping this up. All right, we got the panel all safe sanded so we don't get cut when we push it through the wheels and stuff. And I think the first thing I'll tackle, I might have said something earlier different, but I think the first thing I'll tackle is, this is the most salient feature, is this reverse curve on this bottom edge, which means that it has to be stretched. So it's a simple stretch the edge. Now, you can do this, you can stretch the edge by hammering it, and I've probably shown that a bunch of times. You can hammer it like this and stretch that edge out like that. And when you hit it with the hammer, I should put the sacrificial layer there. When you use the hammer, it moves the metal really fast, but it also sets the arrangement. So, you know, the arrangement on this is going this way. This is the top surface, and you can hit it either way. It doesn't matter. So now I hit it this way back. And the deal is, let's get a pen to illustrate this. The reverse curve is about that deep or so. And what happens here is all the action takes place out in here. So you can see that has to stretch like that all along this edge, like that. So you actually have to stretch a little bit inboard, but almost all of it is on the edge. It's probably 70% of your effort is the first 3/4 of an inch in. And I got extra material here. So the actual edge that before the return, there's a little return there, is right here. We might have to actually come in a little bit further. So this is what I call elastic or plastic stretching of the metal. And it moves it really quick. You can go that way and then hit it back this way. Then go back that way. And we're doing it all on the edge. Now we can come in a little bit, but it's a lot less. And oftentimes what students do when I tell them you got to stretch the edge, instead of hitting right on the edge or wheeling right on the edge, for some I can't understand why, but they always seem to hit in here, which is a major no-no, and it's a real setback for the panel. So you have to have this tapering effect here. All the large majority of the work is from edge inboard just a little bit, and a tiny amount of the work is right here. But it's all important. The whole thing has to be done. Let's do it on the wheel, and then we'll see what happens with the wheel. This particular wheel I use for reverse curves a lot. I don't have a really strong anvil on there right now. We'll put a stronger anvil on. So this is compression stretching as opposed to the other method, which I call elastic or plastic stretching. So I'm working it this way and I'm pulling up on it, and that's going to send that radius this way here, which is what we want. The pulling up is really important. That sets the arrangement. So I'm concentrating on the edge. You're working in the center of the anvil or the center of the top wheel, and that's causing that compression force to lengthen that edge. That's what we want to do. We want to lengthen the edge. And as the edge lengthens, we're getting this effect that the panel is starting to go like this. Of course, we're lifting it that way too, because that's the way it wants to go. If I pull down on it, watch what happens when I pull down. We're going to get all this wave formation because you got more area on that edge than you had when it was not stretched. So you get rid of the wave formation and make the radius arrangement, which is the desired arrangement, by lifting up. Now one thing I'm going to have to do here is change this anvil out and put an anvil with a little more crown in it. So let me get an anvil with more crown. We're going to polish the wheels up too. But this is an interesting little thing. I was a late adapter to cordless drills. And the way I tighten a cordless drill was I put the thing in and I hold it like this, and I complain because it burns your hand really bad. And I just happened to be saying that to one of my students. And my student says, well, that's not how you tighten a cordless drill. I said, really? He says, how do you do it? He says, well, you put the piece in there, you go like that a little bit. But the trick is, after it's there, then you go like that, and that's how you lock a cordless drill. And I did not know that. And I thought that was a really cool little trick. So we just went through August. August is humid as ever, and all the doors are all open. The humidity's in the shop, and bare metal tends to rust up a little bit. So we've got a little bit of rust on this anvil. The top wheel's not bad, but I'm going to polish it up a little bit. This is the way I polish the wheels. Open that up a little more. I got 1200 paper on here. And if you're working with the English wheel, say all day long, you should probably clean these wheels a couple times a day. They get a lot of debris on them. They pick it up from the metal. And always make sure your wheels are nice and clean. So, and then see, there's the scum that comes on the sandpaper, and I found out you can take lacquer thinner and wash that right off, and you just continue to use that piece, one piece of 1200 for a long time. So it's pretty cool. So what we have to do is continue to wheel this and stretch this edge until this fits down nicely. Right now it's all bunching up, and you got obviously a lot more material on this edge. So I've got to put that stretch into this metal edge in order for that to lay down nicely. So we'll continue on. Now that I have this higher crown wheel, it's going to be a lot quicker. And again, I can hit it on the bag and then wheel it, or I can do the whole thing with the wheel. I can do 90% with the mallet on the bag, and the last 10% it's just the way you approach the problem. It'll work either way. And if you're a planishing hammer guy or a power hammer guy, they have a special die. It's called a linear stretch die. And that's how you're going to do this same operation with either a planishing hammer or a power hammer. You could actually do it with a hammer and dolly as well. It's going to take a lot longer time with the hammer and dolly, but well, you actually could mallet it out, which is pretty fast, and then planish it with the hammer and dolly, or slapper and dolly too. We'll go a couple minutes here stretching this edge, and then we'll check it. Now remember, we got to come in a little bit, but I want to get the outer edge where it needs to be first, and then we'll come inboard a little. You can use a shrinker stretcher too. If you use the Lancaster shrinker stretchers on aluminum, see how that's thinning up there? That was 50 thou, it's probably only 30,000. This isn't a structural piece. It's basically a decorative piece. So that's going to be cut off anyways. We're going to cut off about that, about 3/8 of an inch. And then there's a return on there. So it's not that important. Let's see, we'll put that on there and see how that lays down now. All right, it's laying down a little bit better, but you can still see it's bunching up right there because we got a lot of extra material here. And part of the solution is sometimes cutting this extra material off so you don't need to work so much. But now we know where we're at. We'll move the metal a little bit more, we'll stretch it some more, and then maybe trim this back. Come in a little bit. So if you use like a Lancaster shrinker with the file cut interface on the working face of the dies, and oftentimes you can split the aluminum right there when you're doing the stretching operation. Depends on how forceful you are and how patient you are. The stipple dies are a lot better for doing something like this, but generally I much prefer to stretch this out this way than to use the shrinker stretcher. I have a stipple in mine, and I could easily do it with the stretcher, but I much prefer to do it this way. So we'll come in a little bit more. I'm lifting up. Remember, you got to lift up a little bit. I want to thank a lot of people who signed up for my daughter's YouTube channel. If you didn't follow that last video, sign up. Allison McTavish, I think the Mark will put the link in again. And she has a YouTube channel for her singing. She's unbelievable. You won't be disappointed. She's an amazing singer. Has a great selection of songs too on her YouTube channel. She's in a lot of bands and stuff, and that's just something she started, that YouTube channel, to get the word out there, what she's doing. So you can see I still got a bunch to do here, but it's a lot better than what it was. Keep stretching. I think I'll cut some of this off. We'll do that right now. Cut that off about 1/2 inch, and that'll make the process go a little faster. Like I said, we're going to cut about 1/2 inch off of here, but that little operation of just stretching that edge, you can see, look at that. It's starting to look like what it's supposed to already. It's taking the arrangement and the shape the way it's supposed to. And it still needs a little bit right in here. It's quite a bit that edge has got to be stretched. So we're going to stretch that a little bit more. Then I had to make a couple gauges. We need to catch this curve right here, so I made this gauge, and we didn't have that. And we need to catch this too. So I just arranged this, and this gauge is just about fitting, but this gauge is showing that I need area right in here. And that's that standard compound curve, but it's inverted. So I got to wheel that a little bit right in here. I'll probably use the small wheel for that. I've got to stretch this a little bit more. So let's try stretching that a little more. I'll give it a little blast with the hammer and then hit it with wheel it out. So put our sacrificial layer on there. And we're going to hit that again. Turn that like that. When this lays down flat, then you have it. But I got this little kink right in here, so it's still telling me I need a little more. That's better just by doing what I just did there. So you see that's laying down. You saw earlier that had a whole bunch of wrinkles right on the edge there. So let me wheel that out. It might be very close there. And then we got to put a little area up in here. And then the next thing we got to do is, you see how this tips over like this? I marked it on the back side. We got to tip that. And then this will get shrunk. So you can see how radical that is. This gauge right here, number 12, goes about right here, I believe. Let me see. Let me find out where that gauge goes. That gauge goes like that. So that gauge is somewhere right in here. So you can see how much that has to move. There's the index mark for here. That's that tip. So we got 3 operations. One, planish this out, finish stretching it a little bit more. Stretch this out a little bit on the wheel, and then we'll tip that, and we'll see if we can get it a little bit closer. So that's that. Planish that out. Now this has got to come over quite a bit. That radius zone is right here, so that's got to be arranged around. So let's pop this up right here now. We got to get this crown in here, but it comes up on this side. It's an inverted crown. Number 9. So that's where I need to work, right in here. I'm going to put a higher crown anvil in here. I'll pop it a little faster. Now typically what I like to do in a situation like this is you can't go by just a gauge, so I'm going to set the arrangement so that gauge fits better. So I bent it a little bit, bend it a little more. Up at the top it needs to bend a bunch. A little bit too much. Alright, it's closer now. Let's see what 14 says. 14 is probably going to show, yeah, see it needs a lot there. So I got to get definitely more area in there. That's got to puff up this way. This is a really complicated little panel. So much happening on it, it's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to arrange that one a little bit. And you'll see the seesaw here. So we pop this one in. That's a lot closer, and then that will set this one further away. So it might be just this top. Let me see. I'll wheel it a little bit more, but I don't want to go too far with it either. I want to get this feature in because this feature is such a prominent feature, and I need to bend this radius more too. I can get in here after, so I don't think I'll be locked out. That's a problem, is you lock yourself out. You have to do stuff in the correct sequence. It's not the end of the world. You can always find an alternate path, but there's generally an easier path, and then an alternate path might be a little trickier. So let's put a little more area in that little region there. That area has to be there in order for the shape to look like what you want it to. We can also put the flexible shape pattern and see how the flexible shape pattern is doing. Let me go get the flexible shape pattern. What's reading? Okay, I'm not going to go any further. I'll do it after if I have to. I want to try to put this tip in here and get that looking, but maybe I'll pop this a little bit first. We need a forming block to do that. So I want to put this block in here, put a blanket on there, and then roll that over a bunch. Go with my hand here a little bit. That's the fulcrum block. Fulcrum, lever. My hand is the lever. All right, that's the start to that. Let me get a couple of these gauges. We got gauge 13 and gauge 9, and those gauges will show us how it goes around the corner here, where that radius value is. Let me get those 13 and 9. All right, there's 9. Look at that. It's getting close. So almost there. You don't have to get it perfect right from the get-go. You work your way up to perfect. All right, 12. This is where that tip is going to really help. 12 has got this quite a bit to happen on it. And 13, let me check 13. There's 13. Now 13, I'm going to need to push it some more. Let me push it a little bit more right there. There's 13. Still, that has to go that way, which will allow that index mark to line up. So you get about 5/16 of an inch of movement there. The radius is forming in nice. Let me push it a little bit more. Actually, I think the edge of the bench might work really good on that. Quadruple the blanket, nice soft fulcrum. Put it right there. Number 13. You see how that's coming in? It's getting closer. I want to put a glove on so I can hammer it a little bit. It's getting closer. It's about 3/16 of an inch to the index line now. So I'm going to leave that there. I can tune it in a little bit more after. It might need a little stretching in here still too, I don't know. But let's see if we got a time to just do a preliminary tip here, and then we'll see what that looks like. All right, we'll put a couple of passes in through here and tip this up. I put a softer tip wheel on here. It's got a larger or thicker radius there. All right, let's see what we got now. We'll bring the gauges over and the flexible shape pattern and look at the original piece. We'll see where we're at. All right. So look at that. Starting to get there. We've got to straighten this out a little bit, tip that a little more. This is going to be trimmed off. These are all going to have returns on them. Might have to put a little more wheeling in here. We might have to stretch this a little more, but that'll be next. Now you see, this has a curve on this line, and we don't have that. So that actually has to be stretched. So we'll put that in the stretcher, or we can wheel it, one or the other. And we'll do that next to get that a little closer. All right, we put this line in, we tipped it, it's dead straight. You see this line? It's got a good curve to it. So here it is here. It curves this way, and it also curves this way. So I might have to redo this line, I'm not sure, but that's where the gauge, the flexible shape pattern told me I need to put that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this edge out, and you see if we lay this on here, you can see how that needs to stretch up like this now. So I'm going to get the, we'll put the wheel on this edge and the wheel on this edge a little bit and see if we can start that to come up. All right, here we go. I'm going to stretch that edge out. I might use the shrink a stretcher on this one too. I think it might be a better tool choice. Let's see what this does. So I got to lift up on it too, so it pops up on that end over there. Put a little more in here. It's starting to curve a little bit, but let's try the stretcher and see what happens. Look. Now I probably should have stretched that edge before I tipped this, but I didn't. So let's see what happens. We might have to revert to wheeling that out and replotting that line again on the tipping wheel. Most of the stretching has to be on this edge. Now you can see that's getting a nice curve there now. So it's doing what I wanted it to do. So let's take our gauges. Let's see. We got this one. Oh, I didn't put the index point in. That's coming close already. And then we got this one. That needs a bunch more. So we got about a ½ inch of motion. It's still got to happen at the ends here. So this looks like this will work. But I think I could have done it with the wheel, stretching it before I tip this. Now I got to sand out all these shrinker marks. And like I said, generally I don't use the shrinker stretcher as a shaping tool, but this is one of those rare instances that I'm actually using it. So there's our part. As you can see, it's starting to look pretty decent. It's getting that look. So let's see, that's 15 right there. And I got to put this index mark on here so we get the right location. That one goes right there. That one goes right there. Okay, so that still needs, you can see it's about a ½ inch of motion on both ends, so I got to stretch that a bunch more. This one is getting pretty close, so let's keep going on here. So this is 15 here. We're going to mark this 15, and this one right here through here is 16. Now we're cooking with gas. Now let's see how this is going. All right, so you see that's a lot better. See how that's closing up? We got about 3/4 of an inch of gap here. We'll bring that all over, and this should start flowing together really nice. So what you can do sometimes is put this in your shrinker stretcher with the gauge right there, and then you can watch it move in real time here. And that way you don't overdo it. You have to do, it's always like this. There's a lot on this edge, less and less. If you do it all on the edge, you'll end up splitting the edge. You have to actually come in a little bit. But it's most here, less and less as you come in. So we'll watch this. We'll close it up. Work it a little bit. Come in a little. Let's see how that did it. Okay. Now it's getting to be a little bit less there. Let's try the other way. All right, this one's going too much already here, so we might have to replot this line here. We might have to smooth that line out and then replot it with a little curve to it, because we already got more curve than we need this way, but not enough this way. It's right on the peak there through the holes. That looks pretty good, and it's lining up right there too. Let's put a little more stretch here and a little more stretch here, and that'll pull that this way. Let's see what that does. Here. All right, so you can see that gap is closing up. So we're in the right direction here. We were about almost an inch there. Now we're down to maybe 5/8, 11/16 or so. So let's try just bending it here. Let's see what happens there. That was arranging it. Now, one of the problems I have right now is this is way overdone here. So I've got a problem I got to solve. I think I'll wheel these shrink marks out a little bit. All right, I came back to the bench and did a little analysis with the flexible shape pattern, and you know, it's not that easy to do, to describe in detail what you're doing as you're doing it. It's better to be able to reflect a little bit and not worry about what you're going to say on camera and stuff. So I came back here, did the analysis with the flexible shape pattern, and saw where the flaws are. And I can see here through my holes that I'm actually on the line that I tipped pretty good until about right here. So from here to here is good, but here it deviates from the line. So I'm going to have to open this up again. I got it closed. That was one of the things when I came back to the bench. I put this 90-degree bend in here almost, because that's what the gauge said to do. I just bent it over the edge like this, and I bent that, which took that excessive curve out that was in there, and now that's reading much better, but it still needs a little tweaking. This one here is going to be off because I have to redo this line. This peak from about here over has to be brought over in here, and I got plenty of material for it. So, but at where we're at now is pretty close. It's about a half an inch there, half an inch there. This I think is just a little more stretching right here, and that'll pop right up. I got to replot this line over here, and then over in here, if you let this lay carefully on here and you open this all up, you can see how far this is off here. And what that's telling me is I still got to stretch a lot right in here. And I'll probably do that with the wheel. I might do it with the stretcher too. And that's got to send that up like that. Once that's gone up like that, that'll fit better there. I got to smooth this out with the wheel, replot that tip, bring it over here, and that'll put this curve in the way it wants to be. And the little shrinking, the stretching over here will bring that end of it up. But that's a lot of work. That's a whole other episode. I think we're done pretty good. You can see this is a super difficult problem. This would be like your doctorate thesis if you could make this by just reading the information, the surface information. It's a really complicated piece. That's the exact opposite over here. This is all super simple right here. It's just going to be in that corner. But now I'm going to have the experience of doing this one, so that one will go probably a little bit quicker. So it'll be a whole other episode just to tune this in a little bit more, and I don't have time tonight to do it. So thanks for watching, and please remember to subscribe and give us the comments, the likes, and hit that little notification bell. And remember, check out my daughter's YouTube channel. Mark will put the little link in there, and please subscribe to her channel. She's an unbelievably good singer. So I just want to thanks for watching this. Not everybody's interested in the 550 Porsche Dash, it seems like, because the numbers are really low. But this is probably one of the best videos I've done. It's got some incredible complexity in it, and there's a lot of little tricks to get it just right. And you know, like I said, if you had a hammer form, it's a totally different game. So this is, if you can do a Porsche 550 Dash, you can make anything. Thanks for watching. Metal is clay. It's Wray from Pro Shaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts.